A 16-year veteran of the United States Army, congressional candidate Cait Conley is running to show that love of country always surpasses love of party. I had the chance to sit down to not only talk about the pillars of her campaign, but to talk about how Cait's lived experiences coming from a blue-collar working-class family in the Hudson Valley to being, a huge critical part of our elections security in the cybersecurity space, working at the National Security Council. I mean, all of these things have led her to this moment to continue her public service. It's an important conversation that you need to hear because, and in some of our darkest times, Cait Conley is the kind of person that we need in DC. Joining me now is Cait Conley. She is running in New York's Congressional 17th. Cait, thank you so much for being here.
Are you kidding? Thanks for having me, Katie. This is awesome.
So, Cait, I want to start straight out of the gate by thanking you for your service, and we're going to get into the details of that in just a minute. But you have done, and frankly, I think you continue to do the type of sacrifice for this country that makes you a true patriot. That word, I think, has become bastardized. The word patriot, I think, has been bastardized by the other side. And so when I get the chance to meet with and spend time with a true patriot, I'm honored to do so. I wanted to mention, Cait, that you and 3 other congressional candidates, and I want to make sure we don't neglect to mention them, Rebecca Bennett, Maura Sullivan, and Joanna Mendoza. The 4 of you are the Hellcats. Where did the name the Hellcats come from?
Those are my girls. So Rebecca Bennett, New Jersey 7, Joanna Mendoza out in Arizona 6, and Maura Sullivan up in New Hampshire 1, have become my battle buddies in this fight for this country we love again. And so I have to say, Katie, it started as just genuine, like a friendship chat. We all got in this arena together and I think became natural friends because of our shared heritage and journey in serving this country and wearing the uniform. And so as we found each other, taking this on earlier in 2025, we actually started our own friend chat that we called the Hellcats. Joanna named it after the first group of women in World War I to make up the all-female 1st Marine Unit. And so it was pretty awesome. And with that, folks just kind of heard about us and our story. And I think to your point, at a time where we are fighting to define what it means to be an American and what American values are, to see people who truly believe in the best of this country and that it is worth making all of the sacrifices for, and understanding that it takes that in order to make sure America continues to be the country we're proud of, and that we're getting back in the arena because what we fought for is truly, under attack, and who we are as a nation and what that continues to mean, I think, is under attack.
Well, and my thanks to the 3 other members of the Hellcats for their service as veterans. I speak a lot at this channel and publicly, Cait, about lived experiences because I feel like that now brings a value to the table for our electeds than any other time in our American history. Share with the viewers and the people that are tuning in right now your background because you are a 4th generation Hudson Valley native.
Yeah. So, I am the American dream story, right? I grew up in a super blue collar family. We go back here in the Hudson Valley 4 generations. My great grandfather and grandfather worked in the brickyard in a town called Montrose. And my dad was a construction worker. My mom's been with the U.S. Postal Service for 48 years and still going.
Wow.
And has served communities all across the Hudson Valley. And so those values of hard work and tenacity and the expectation to stand up and fight for what is right, to fight for your community. Those are the values that were instilled in me by my family and these communities. And that's why, I still remember as a junior in high school when 9/11 happened, watching the towers fall on TV. That was the first time I felt this just unquestionable pull to serve, right? I knew my place where I belonged was in the fight. And so that's what led me to going off to West Point and then serving for 16 years afterwards as an active duty Army officer, leading America's sons and daughters in defense of this nation, out of love for country, right? And a desire to serve the American people and our Constitution and to fight for what is right. And it has been the privilege and honor of my lifetime to lead America's sons and daughters in that way. And when I worry about this country, or when I hear people talking about how they're worried about what America's becoming and what's going to happen, I tell them to go visit West Point because I will tell you, this place is so special in that here you have young men and women who come from all 50 states and territories, from families that represent the economic spectrum, some of the nation's wealthiest families, some of the nation's poorest families, there for one reason, to come together to defend this country we love and fight for the American people. And it is so special. And that, to me, represents the best of America, right? People who are willing to make the ultimate sacrifice for something bigger than themselves out of love of country.
Cait, that's incredibly inspirational. I want to say I'm so impressed. You were the first in your family to go to college, that college being West Point. You got master's degrees from MIT and Harvard that became incredibly relevant at another point in your career. But I want to stay on this love of country. We are seeing a Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, who has no love of country, but love of a cult leader in a man named convicted felon Donald Trump. How troubling is it for you, from your years of service, your education, frankly, that you also obtained about the history of our military when you were at West Point, and just the level of sacrifice that you've made to be able to make sure that I can sleep safely at night and that my child has a free democracy in a country where she can be raised, where she can be who she wants to be? How hard is it on you to be able to watch what is happening under this administration then?
Katie, I think this period will go down in our nation's history as one of its darkest and most challenging hours. And with that, Pete Hegseth going down as the most incompetent and unqualified Secretary of Defense we have ever had. I don't even have the PG words to describe.
Feel free. There's no PG here, but I understand. Okay, it's all good.
It is a fucking embarrassment to the men and women in uniform to have such an individual who cares more about his own ego than the safety and security of American families. And Katie, they deserve better. You, your children, your family, every American family deserves better. And this guy, he's such a joke at a time where we should be talking about the future threats to America, the things that are going to undermine the safety and security of American families in the years to come, and focusing on the current and future. This man is so stuck in the past because of his own inadequacies. And so we're not doing the hard things that we need to be right now. We're just talking about how do we ensure the safety and security of our nation's critical infrastructure at a time where oceans no longer protect us from threats from our foreign adversaries? How do we make sure that nuclear proliferation doesn't occur? And especially some of these rogue nation states. We just see in Iran that can't even provide water to its people. You're seeing the uprising that is happening all across this country. Yet they're doubling down on the pursuit and development of a nuclear weapon. And they are the greatest purveyor of lethal aid to terror groups in the world. You see a North Korean regime that, coming out of the UN General Assembly, again, cannot even feed its own people, but is talking about expanding their nuclear arsenal. You have so many challenges that we should be talking about, that we should be focused on. And instead, you see Hegseth waging this war on women who are highly competent and qualified, who've been doing these jobs he could never hack himself because he can't deal with the real hard.
Cait, you just said something that kind of just a light bulb went off in my head. We're actually living in a country that has a leader that's not feeding its people. We have Americans that can't get food, that are not going to have health insurance, that are not going to be able to make their next bill payment for their mortgage, and are going to lose their homes. And that is happening because of Donald Trump, with people like facilitators and enablers like Mike Lawler, who is the Republican incumbent in the district that you're running in. Yeah. And then we have a leader who can't feed and take care of his own people, that is trying to be aggressively expanding in an imperialistic way, talking about taking Greenland, doing military strikes in Venezuela, now threatening Cuba, Panama. I mean, you name it. How important is it to have someone like you, 3 Bronze Stars, real military experience, knowledge of cybersecurity, which we're going to get into in a couple of minutes, but somebody who really has, again, the lived experience to talk about the need for Americans to have food on their table, to make sure that they are safe domestically, internationally, and that there's real value that's being provided as an American?
Katie, at the end of the day, it's just about helping the American people, right? Lead their best lives possible. That's what all of service is about. it's always remembering that the people you're doing it for, they are your top priority. And the role of government is to make sure they can lead these lives filled with hope and potential and opportunity, and not fear or despair. And we are seeing this administration with a president focused on lining his own pockets and that of his loyalist buddies over taking care of the American people, and being enabled by a group of Republicans in Congress that care more about their own political preservation and ambition than the welfare of the American people or the people who elected them there. I keep telling folks, I'm not just running against Mike Lawler because he's a Republican. I'm running against him because he is failing our communities and our families. And at a time where this country needs leaders of character who are going to do the right thing, we see him time and time again bending the knee to Trump out of his own political aspirations. And that is unacceptable. I come from the world where the stakes could not be higher. It is about the lives of the men and women to your left and right. It's about the lives of the American people you are fighting every day to protect and defend. And that is the level of commitment and courage that the American people deserve in their leaders. And we are seeing the exact opposite every day playing out in the halls of Congress when it comes to this Republican-controlled majority.
You also have been a public servant throughout your entire life. After leaving active duty, you were the director of counterterrorism on the National Security Council. You worked at the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. You've also been leading efforts to make sure that our infrastructure is protected. I want to talk about this because I feel like, Cait, a lot of this kind of goes by, these huge headlines, and understandably so happen, but there's real important stuff that's being done behind the scenes that a lot of people don't understand has now been dismantled at the hands of Trump. And again, has been enabled by Republicans in Congress like Mike Lawler, for example. Trump disbanded an entity called, is it CIPAC? CIPAC? How do you pronounce it?
CPAC?
CPAC, which enabled the sharing of information between the federal government and the owners of parts of critical infrastructure like water systems and electric grids and hospitals. And it's a part of a huge defunding that's happened for our cybersecurity here in the United States in this Trump administration. And again, voted through and approved and completely cheered on by Republicans. How much should Americans be paying attention, Cait, to the threats to our infrastructure from foreign state actors and also people that are just asleep at the switch here domestically?
Katie, when we talk about our nation's critical infrastructure, we're talking about everything from the water we drink to the energy that powers our lives, right? To our healthcare systems, the hospitals that provide life-saving treatments. And so the importance of ensuring that they are safe and secure and resilient is of the highest nature, because that is truly what impacts us every single day and ensures the safety and security of the American people in our communities. And so, yes, we talk about national security and the threats to this nation. And, for generations, we had two oceans that protected us. That's not the case anymore. It's 2026, ladies and gentlemen. And let me tell you, with the interconnected nature of our systems, our technology, with the advancements of missile technology, oceans are not enough. And so when you look at our domestic infrastructure, we see cyber criminal groups enabled by nation states like North Korea, Russia, China, going after our country's critical infrastructure providers. They are literally locking up American hospitals with ransomware, shutting down surgeries and emergency service departments. We see them attacking schools and shutting down public and private education facilities, bankrupting some. You see them going after truly every element of our society to extort money to enable their own priorities and interests or criminal activities. And this is where we have to look at this from a comprehensive lens to meet the threats of today. And this administration, instead of leaning in and continuing to advance this ball downfield and build on that, has literally gutted it and attacked the professional public servants who've been there for years, leading this charge. You know, you're talking earlier about the Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center, the MSISAC, which is one of the vehicles in which real-time threat intelligence is shared between the federal government and the private and public sectors and state and locals and through other means. And instead of investing in this, which, by the way, is a hell of a lot more cost efficient than asking each state to set up their own.
That's right.
You've seen them defunding this at a time where we are seeing cyber attacks grow, not shrink. And the impacts on Americans' lives be felt every day. And so, yeah, they should be doubling down, Katie. The same thing around foreign influence operations. You know, you talked about some of the things that this administration has dismantled. They shut down things like the Foreign Influence Task Force out of the FBI, you know, and other things within the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, again, focused on identifying and combating disinformation operations by our foreign adversaries at a time where we see that growing, you know. And this just goes back to this administration is not focused on keeping the American people safe. All the bullshit they spew about this is about America first and safety, then show it. Because that's not what we are seeing. Americans are less safe today than they were 14 months ago. That should never be acceptable.
I think about how fortunate the voters in your district are, and frankly, in the state of New York, because to your well-taken point, this administration has made a big push to jettison its federal kind of setup and framework to protect us from in cybersecurity spaces. It has punted it to the states, but simultaneously has slashed funding to the states to be able to battle these, you know, fights against all these aggressive foreign state actors that are trying to destroy our infrastructure, including threatening our election security. That's another huge part of what the Trump administration has attempted to and has successfully disbanded and gotten rid of. How important is it then to have somebody who's representing New York in DC that has a background and experience in this space to make sure that the New Yorkers are being taken care of as well?
I mean, Katie, New Yorkers, families here in the Hudson Valley, really all Americans deserve a professional and competent government. You know, we were talking about it's playoff season for the NFL, right? And we're talking about how these teams, the goal is the pursuit of excellence. And that should be the same for the federal government, right? The pursuit of excellence, because the American people deserve it and the stakes could not be higher. And this goes back to an administration that didn't find the most qualified people. They found the most loyal to Trump. And so, yes, to your point, I am incredibly proud to stand up and say, my only loyalty is to the American people and this country that I love. And I'm going in there to kick some ass, because what is happening under this administration is making America less safe and America's future worse, not better. And that is not the America that I'm okay accepting, right? This is our watch to fight back. This is our watch to say, this isn't going to happen. This is not going to be the America we become out of the selfishness of a few. And so it is about us stepping up and saying, we know better. We will do better. And the American people deserve better.
You know, this is not a ding on the men in this pro-democracy space, but I got to tell you, Cait, I'm always incredibly proud to be able to stand shoulder to shoulder with some very strong women that have been, you know, metal tested, right? To be able and battle tested to be able to do this. I wanted to highlight a time back in 2018, which we're all very familiar with. There was a huge and very successful push back in 2018 by the Democrats to say, not on our watch. And in that group in 2018, and again, one of the members of that was Senator Andy Kim. So again, some great men that have been in this space, but there were some badass women in 2018 that we got elected, including Alyssa Slotkin, who's also a senator now, but it also included Mikey Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger, who have gone on to win 2 critical gubernatorial races in their own time. I mean, it is something to be said about people that are stepping up for the fight, that are saying it's not enough to just complain. It's time for us to do something. You've had an incredibly amazing, committed, storied career so far. You are incredibly young, but not in a bad, inexperienced way. But the sky's the limit for you. Why continue in public service?
Katie, I am watching the country that I was willing to die for become something I can't recognize. That I refuse to allow to continue as long as I still have air in my lungs. I have lost too many friends making the ultimate sacrifice for this country to make America what it is, and to watch people who don't care about it lead it into this mess and dishonor the generations before us who have sacrificed. And I'm not just talking about those in uniform. When you look at America's journey to form a more perfect union, whether it was fighting for civil rights or women's suffrage or the LGBT community, right? It is this constant journey to form a more perfect union that makes America so incredible. And to see how much work we still have to do, but instead of seizing that moment and pushing forward, we're going backwards. That can't be something any of us accept. And so that's why, I talk to people, I'm like, this isn't just a Democrat fight. It's not just a fight for one party or the other. It's a fight for America. It's not about red issues and blue issues. It's about red, white, and blue. And acknowledging that America, our best days are still ahead of us if we do the hard work and step up and deliver and lead and be the example. But that does not happen on its own. And so this goes back to what I used to tell my soldiers, doing the right thing when it's easy, that's just doing your job. Doing the right thing when it is hard, when it may come at harm and sacrifice, like that is courage. And America has become the incredible nation it is because in our darkest hours, in our hardest moments, regular Americans have stepped up in these extraordinary times and lived with courage and fought. And so this is what I ask every American to do. I don't care how you register to vote. Just fight for America to be better. So that's why.
I'm truly speechless because you have just articulated in like 60 seconds exactly what the spirit of America must be for us to move forward as a country. I'm so grateful for you taking the time to share the pillars of your campaign and your thoughts and your experience with us. If people want to learn more about you, Cait, if they want to support you, where can they go?
Yeah, please check it out. It's caitconley.com. That's CAITCONLEY. Follow us on socials. We try to keep it fun and light despite the dark times. But thank you so much, Katie, for the opportunity to talk about these critical issues that are essential to our future across the board.
I want to emphasize for everybody that the spelling of Cait's name is actually C-A-I-T. So when you go to check her out, it's C-A-I-T Conley, CONLEY.com. 17th Congressional District candidate from New York, Cait Conley. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Katie. Let's go kick some ass.
Damn straight.
Yeah.
Katie Phang here. We launched the Katie Phang News Channel in partnership with the Midas Touch Network so we could bring you the latest in legal and political news. Straight, no chaser. So if you're a fellow truth teller, hit that subscribe button and share the word about this channel so we can build a high information America together.